Hi, Joe Clifford Faust here. Welcome to episode 4 of JCF TV. Going to be starting up a new feature here today. It's called the mailbag, and actually, technically, it's not the mailbag. I guess it's the email inbox, but the mailbag just sounds better because that's how they've always done it. And I just happen to have an email here from a friend of mine who's currently in the process of writing his second novel. Still working on finding his voice and everything. Joe, your email reminded me of a quick question I wanted to ask. I noticed that you have a printed copy of your manuscript, even though the manuscript is a work in progress. And he's right. In this age of hard drives and things like that, most people, I guess, keep it on the computer. I don't know how all you new people are writing with hard drives and stuff, but I started writing in the days of the typewriter. So chapter by chapter, as I finish each chapter of my book in progress, I print it out and I put it in a 3-ring binder. And of course right now the binder is a little bit big for the book, but this book will grow to fit this one and maybe another one if it does what I think it's going to do. That's just a holdover from the days when I used to type my manuscripts out. I wrote A Death of Honor and half of The Mushroom Shift on a typewriter, and Desperate Measures, which is the first novel I wrote. So all those were done on a typewriter the old-fashioned way, and then I would go through and edit and retype. So naturally, when A Death of Honor sold and I got my first computer with Microsoft Word 1.0, what a change that was, but it didn't change me completely. So I'm still in the habit of making that big thing. Do you do this for revision reasons? I ask because I generally try to make as many revisions as possible before printing a copy to save paper. That said, when I do print a copy, it is single-spaced, again to save on paper, which I then write my changes on before making them in the actual manuscript. Of course, when mailing a manuscript, it is double formatted, or formatted double-spaced. I'm just curious to get your input on the process. The answer, yeah, I think I already addressed it. Yeah, I do that because I'm in the habit of doing it. That's how I learned to do it. And when I edit myself, I'm in the habit of taking a red pen and marking up my manuscript so each page looks like a road map of New Jersey or something. And then I go back and now I just put the changes into the computer without having to retype the whole thing, which is a real blessing anymore. But it's just the way I work. And really what I told him in my response email was that I'm kind of I consider myself a basher. My thing is I sit there and I bash on the keyboard, and what I'm doing is I'm racing my own forgetfulness and trying to get everything in my head onto the page before I forget it. So as a result, I have they're probably sloppy manuscripts, and I print this beast out, as I've shown you a couple of times before. Then I go through with the red pen and start carving, and it's basically like making a sculpture. I've managed to write myself a block of wood or marble or something, and now I have to carve away at it until the story takes shape. I was at a science fiction convention once on a panel with Lois McMaster-Bujold, who is one of the nicest people I've ever met in science fiction, and we were talking about how we worked, and she just gave me this look of horror when I talked about how I worked, and she was like, well, I could never do that. And the way Lois works, and Lawrence Block, and I think my friend here who sent me this email, from what I've talked to him, it sounds like he works the same way. The way they work is they labor over each sentence and then each paragraph and then each page, and they get it right before they go on. That personally would drive me crazy if I had to work that way, but it's just a difference in, everybody's a little bit different, and that's why it's so important. One of the things I've advocated quite a bit is it's okay to read books about the writing process, but when the person says, this is how you write a novel, and it's how I do it and it's how everybody should do it, that's wrong. That's no good, because I read so many books about how to write novels, and just looking at the process that some of these authors took, I knew that wasn't for me, and it wasn't until I read Writing the Novel from Plot to Print by Lawrence Block that I was liberated, because Block says, it doesn't matter how you get the book written as long as you get it written. What works for you is the way you should write a novel. And it works for me to make this big, huge, unwieldy manuscript and then cut it down to size. Bajol and Block and my friend here, they seem to deal more with being precise and getting as clean a manuscript out as they can the first time out. Now, in every case, it's still going to need some edits on the back end and some tweaks and things like that. But ultimately, what everyone is producing is the same kind of manuscript. We all just work a little bit differently. If you're new to writing, that's one thing you've got to discover along with your writer's voice is how do I work? And once again, the only way to do that is to sit down and put your posterior in the chair and write and work that thing out. So, and that's one of the reasons I think that people say the first novel is the hardest, because you've never done it before. You're trying to find your voice, and you're also trying to figure out what process to use that works for you. And there is probably as many different processes and sub-processes as there are writers out there, and maybe someday I'll talk about a little bit about those. So that's today's discussion. If you want to participate and send me a potential topic for JCFTV, I'd be happy to read your email. You can send it to me at this address right down here. It's going to magically appear, and that will be thiefmedia@gmail.com, and I will be happy to talk and talk and talk as I want to do.